Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. Today's Thursday, which means tomorrow's Friday, which means it's on the weekend, and I'm super happy about that because this was a long week for me, and I am tired. So I'm really happy that it's almost the end of the week. I hope everyone is having a great week. There's football tonight, which should be fun. And I'm just happy that we're really getting into the heart of football season now. So that's really fun. There's a lot to be discussed tonight. I'm excited for this episode. I'm excited to talk some football. So before we kind of get started, I want to introduce my guest with me for this week. He has his own football podcast, the YWC Football Talk podcast. He's had me on the show as a guest. We've talked football. He's a big Patriots fan like me, super knowledgeable about the sport, and it's just a really passionate fan, just like I am. So, Griff, how are you doing tonight?
You know what? It's like you said. I'm always glad to come on here. First time on here, I should say. I was about to say I'm glad to be finally able to come on here. But no, I'm doing good. It's like you too. Thursday night, we got a game that starts in a couple hours. I'm really looking forward to that for fantasy and just as an overall football fan because I'm a fiend for the sport. And as a whole, too, like you said, it's Thursday, which means tomorrow's Friday, which means, hey, look, in a couple days it's Halloween, but also, too, it's just a couple more days closer to Patriots football.
Exactly. I like that. Yeah, I know. Halloween this weekend. That's right. I almost forgot. Yeah, it doesn't. Geez, I feel like this month went by really fast because I was looking back on this month and I said, where did October go? Like, how is it already almost November? But I honestly love this time of year between like Halloween and then Thanksgiving and then like Christmas, like all of that. That this span of the next, 2 to 3 months where it's the holidays is just my favorite time of the year.
Yeah, obviously for us it's different because obviously you're in the States, I'm up here in Canada, but
Yeah.
because I already had Thanksgiving, so for me it's like after because obviously Halloween's on Sunday, and then Monday hits, and you're going to start seeing the trees, you're going to start seeing the wreaths, you're going to start hearing the Christmas music that I know if you work in retail, it makes you want to you hate it because it's on a loop. But no, it's just like it's that time of year again. Like I know as it gets colder out, it sucks because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I want summer back." But I always said this, like, "Hey, for as great as summer is, the colder weather just means we're getting into the brunt of football season." And honestly, there's nothing better.
No, there's really not. And then because once December hits, it's Christmas time, and then it's also that's like getting into closer to playoff football, which is super exciting. So it's just a really good time of year right now. People are in good spirits. It's fun, and I'm excited just to kind of see how the football season progresses.
No, not 100%. Because like right now too, we're always used to this being like the halfway point of the year, but I guess it's like the 45% mark of the year because obviously now there's week 17, so we have an extra week that we have to look forward to. But no, you're right because now is really when you start. Obviously, there's some teams who you could already say that are out of it, but then there are some teams where you don't know exactly where they're going to go, and then obviously if the people who we think are going to be there in January. But the Patriots right now are in that we don't know exactly what we're going to get category. That's why I feel like now for us to have this conversation, it's such a great time for it.
That's what I mean. Yeah, because they're not in the category of like the Jets, where it's like, yeah, you are not going to be in it probably, or like, you know what I mean, or the Jaguars, like teams like that, for example, like the Patriots are in that sitting at 3-4, and in that, yeah, I mean, if they keep winning games, they could be in it, but we just don't really know because they're not at that point yet where you can kind of feel pretty confident that they will be. Like, I mean, you can pretty much already say that about the Bills. I mean, the chances of the Bills not being there in January is very slim right now. You know what I mean? And then, teams like, for example, probably like the Chargers is another team I'd put in that category. You know what I mean? Like, there's teams like that. I mean, and then in the NFC, obviously, like Tampa most likely will be there. Like the Rams, obviously the Cardinals. I mean, geez, will probably be there. But then you're right. There's like all these teams that are in that in between phase right now. And the Patriots are definitely one of those teams with a tough schedule coming up, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. But just in general, kind of what are your thoughts on how the season has gone so far? Because for me, I mean, obviously they've played some tough games, like close games too, like really close against Tampa, really close against the Cowboys. I was at that game, by the way, the Cowboys Patriots game, which was super fun but frustrating how it ended in overtime, but probably the best game to be at of the season, which was cool. So it's like they've played close games against good teams. So I really do feel like they're better than their record says right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. I say the same way. The loss more than the more I look on it now, the loss that irks me the most is the Dolphins, considering where their season's gone since then. Because like I have a buddy that comes on my show. Shout out Big Rat 310. He's probably not watching. I said to give him the shout out. Because I remember around during my AFC preview show, which he's been a part of. Obviously, it's my podcast. It's like still in its infancy. It will be turning 2 in January, but he said that, look, Miami had the same opening schedule for 2020 as 2021. Last year they went over 2. He knew they had to split 1-1 or go 2-0 in that time. So that win for them was good, but then from there it was downhill. So that loss irks me the most because that was like last year with Buffalo when Cam had the fumble, and then it was just that, look, we don't know what happens. He doesn't fumble. There's a chance we win the game. Then obviously there was the Jets game, which was great. The Saints game, which is the one loss of the year, which I really take as is we just weren't in it the entire game.
Yeah,
Tampa
that was
more
just
than
a bad loss in general. Just a bad game for the Patriots. They did not look good at all that game.
Exactly, just off chemistry. Just some like really silly plays happen. Obviously, there was the pass that Mac had thrown. John, who tipped in his hands, ran to Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins ran back to the house for a pick 6. The Tampa game was probably the most. I will say this: out of 6 Super Bowls I've experienced with a Patriots fan, that Tampa game was probably the most emotional I've been during a football game. Just the fucking Adele video. The freaking Adele video. Sorry. That is just that. Like, it's the hello. I'm just like, oh. At first when I saw it, I'm like, oh, for the love of God. But then as you get
that
more
video.
the video. And then as I'm watching it, I'm just like there. And then they have the transition where it goes, so hello from the other side. And then just switches him into Buccaneers gear. I'm like, okay.
I know. That was like, they're really trying to tear at our heartstrings with this video right now. Seriously.
It's not tear for it. It's just like grab your hand, just into your heart, rip your heart out, and just like watch it just beat like right in front of your eyes. And then Dallas, I will say, was an emotional roller coaster. Because honestly, when the pick 6 happened with Trayvon Diggs, I'm like, this game's over. And then Mac threw it to probably what is my favorite off-season on offensive acquisition of the year, Kendrick Bourne, which we'll get more into later. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this too, if for any Jets fans or Jets players or anyone in the Jets organization that may be listening to this, we don't feel sorry we feel sorry that Zach Wilson got hurt. Obviously, that was very bad.
I mean, you hate to see that, but
I don't feel sorry for them saying that we ran up the score. Guess what? It's football. We put up a 50, I'd say 50 burger, but I want to quote Kendrick Bourne from his Instagram, 50-piece McNugget combo. I think that's was the quote. We put that up. That was the best Patriots game I had seen since, ironically, last year's Chargers game.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's funny for one, that quote, but also, the way I put this, which is totally something Belichick would say and has said before, it's like, what are they supposed to do? Just not play? Just stop playing the game? Like, I mean, what are they supposed to do? It's not our fault that the Jets are so bad. I mean, what are we supposed to do? Just stop playing football because the Jets are upset? You know what I mean? Like, that's not how the game works. This is professional football.
No, 100%. You're right. It's like you because we always know this with football. The second you take your foot off the gas, we saw it. That one game I didn't mention, the Houston Texans game, which Patriots and Houston comebacks, there's something that go together with them. But with that game too, you saw Houston take the foot off the gas when they were up 22-9, and that's when the Patriots really took over and put up 16 unanswered points. So that's because basically I'll say this. Good football teams know how to hang in a game, but great football teams know how to win. Now, are the Patriots a great football team at the moment? No, we're good. I still think we're a good football team. There are those moments there, though, where there are growing pains. I thought that going into the year, especially after we drafted Mac. But the simple fact now that there are signs there that, look, this kid's going to be good. And also, too, I'll say this, he's the best quarterback that was drafted in 2021. Obviously, there's Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, Justin Fields, great college success. Mac, too, national champion. But Mac's in that right system where we saw him chuck it. And also, I'll say this too. It was great to see N'Keal Harry make that catch on Sunday where he just completely mossed. I don't know who the cornerback was who he got over, but he completely mossed the guy.
Yeah, no, that was great to see because obviously, as we know, N'Keal Harry's had a rough go here in New England, and he hasn't really been able to find his stride here. And I do think at the end of the day, he ultimately doesn't stay here. I think at the end of the day, he ends up getting moved somewhere else. When I do think he has potential, I just don't necessarily know that the Patriots are the right system for him, but I still want to see more of him with Mac Jones because we haven't seen enough of that really yet to know if, because maybe he can succeed here. Maybe he just wasn't really in the right situation for the Patriots in the past. But I was a big fan of N'Keal Harry when he was in college. And I feel like when he was drafted, there was a lot of pressure on him to be really, really good. and he just wasn't panning out to be that in the NFL so far. But I was really happy for him making that catch, because you love to see somebody like that make a catch like that. But you bring up a good point with also with, just in general, like with the Dolphins game, for example, like I look back on that and I'm like, if Damian Harris doesn't make that fumble, they could have won that game. Like we could have said like Mac Jones like delivered his first game-winning touchdown drive of the
We win
season.
that game.
You know what I mean?
We win that game. I didn't mean to cut you
too.
off.
I think
We win that game if Damian Harris doesn't fumble there. I am hard on that, because either Mac has a touchdown or Nick Folk kicks a game-winning field goal. That's
because they were in field goal range where Nick Folk could have kicked a field goal to win the game at that point. That's what I mean. I think like, at the end of the day, you look back and it was that play, which had they imagine how much different this conversation would be had they won that game.
It's basically you flip the records around, so then we're 4-3 and not 3-4. Obviously, we are where we are. After the more or less the Buccaneers loss when we were sitting at 1-3, I said to myself, look, if we can find a way to get to 4-4 or worst case scenario 3-5 by the end of October, the season's still salvageable to where November we're gonna have to steal a game or two. But look, we'll talk about it later, but all I'm going to say is if we can get a win Sunday and go to 4-4, that's going to be a huge momentum shifter, considering now there's a game coming up next week, which I thought the first month of the season, look, hey, may not be a win anymore, but that game's looking a lot more like a win now than it did, say, even 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, I agree with you for sure. I think there's, the schedule that they have coming up is not exactly easy, but some of those games are winnable games. And I think that that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the Patriots. And, you look at this team right now and it's like, okay, like they're 3-4. It's almost November. Like there's an extra game to be played with game 17 still. And you look at it and it's like, okay, this season is nowhere close to over for the Patriots, especially because you have two teams in this division that are absolute dumpster fires right now. And, the Dolphins, it's going to be really interesting to see if they end up getting Deshaun Watson, because that's going to be really intriguing to me, what happens with the Dolphins if they get him. I still don't think, it's going to be for this season. It's really going to work out. I think they've dug themselves into a little too much of a hole right now for that to really pan out to anything this season. But if they get Deshaun Watson, then it will be interesting to see what the Dolphins do in the future, because I really am not convinced at all that Tua is the guy.
They're also going to have to go, I think it's like 9-1 or 10-0 down the stretch to even probably sniff the playoffs at this point. And ask them to do that.
Yeah, for this year. That's why I'm saying probably not. But
yeah, not for this year. And he's also, too, here's the other thing. If the Deshaun Watson trade goes through for the Miami Dolphins, which I can see it happening, also considering, too, look, could a bomb drop of Monday Night Football again like it did a few weeks ago? Obviously, a very different one compared, because the John Gruden stuff is a little worse, or a lot worse. Yeah. But even if this happens, though, the second it happens, Miami, the commissioner's, Goodell's going to step in and just basically go, okay, no, he's suspended for the rest of the year. He's suspended, because I still believe that, look, it's a slap in the face to the women that are involved in his trials if he steps on the football field before the stuff in court is settled. So my whole thing has been let the court settle it, let the courts play out with it, whatever happens, and then he handles his discipline. Kind of like what happened to Antonio Brown last year. You know how he effectively, after we cut him in 2019, he didn't play, but then he still had an 8-game suspension last year. So I can still very see that happening, where, hell, even if after this Sunday, because I will say this right now, and I have this hard, Buffalo Bills points and to win Sunday, because Josh Allen owns the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, it's true. It's going to happen. The Bills will win.
Bills are my survival. This is going to sound weird. Bills are my pick for my survival league this week. So fingers crossed there. I have 2 strikes and I already have 1 there. But in a weird turn of events, my week 1 pick was actually the Houston Texans over Jacksonville. So I got a little ballsy there, and I took it, and it's been good so far. But no, with the whole Miami stuff, like we said, if they're trading for Watson, it's not looking like all of a sudden, hey, you know what, we're getting him to help us win now. No, it's a 5 to 10 year window kind of thing. So if I feel like Miami can effectively mail in this year, if you will, and try to salvage the season a bit, maybe get to 6 wins if they're lucky, because they still do have to face the Jets twice. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
exactly. No, the Jets are the worst. Even though Miami is 1-6, Miami's doing that same thing, the what if game, where they could have beaten the Vegas. They could have beaten Vegas, Jackson. They should have beat Jacksonville. I almost live bet.
That game was, I was laughing
line.
during that game though, because as a Patriots fan, I really can't stand the Dolphins. So I was like, they're really gonna lose to the freaking Jaguars. Like in London, it was a 9:30 a.m. game. I was on my way to the Patriots Cowboys game with my friends, and like I had that game on in the car, and I was like, this is hilarious right now. Like they really are about to lose this game.
It was my go-to game before Red Zone on that Sunday at 1 o'clock, because I was at home, obviously, because I watch whenever the Pats aren't on, I'll watch Red Zone, obviously, because which football junkie doesn't. But so then I did that, but then I watched that. But that's the thing too, because we actually got an entertaining London game this year, because I feel like the NFL purposely sent 4 bad teams over. But the only other thing I'll say about the Dolphins too is it felt good last week to see Atlanta not blow a lead completely. It was nice to see them, because they were up big against Miami. Miami came back, but it was nice to see Atlanta, you know what, pull up the dub there, just because Atlanta's that sorry little person you like to make fun of. I'm sorry. I mean, they do it to themselves.
No, they do. They're definitely just like a laughable team, I feel like. You know what I mean?
100%.
But yeah, I mean, the Falcons, my gosh. Yeah, it all started with that Super Bowl and then everything went downhill from there. But yeah, I mean,
on Thursday Night Football.
And yeah, I mean, the whole this division, like back to kind of what we were saying before, the AFC East is really not good. So that's why it's like the only team in the division that really actually is legitimate right now, like, is Buffalo, that obviously will probably win the division. But then that gives the Patriots a good chance where if they can keep stringing together some wins, like they could be in that wild card race, because you know that like the other teams in the division, they won't really have to worry about. And obviously there's other good teams like across the league that they have to worry about. But, you know, if they can string together some wins, then you know, I think they have a chance. But what I will say overall that has disappointed me a lot about how this season overall has gone so far is that I think that they still have Mac Jones on too tight of a leash. I think that they don't trust him enough. And I think that they're playing a little bit conservative when it comes to the offense. And we're starting to see a little bit more of like Mac making bigger plays. But there have been a lot of situations this year where I've seen that it feels like they're not letting him like throw the ball really, and it seems like they're just kind of not trusting him enough in big situations, like for example not going for it on 4th and 1 in that Bucks game and just kicking the field goal instead that Nick Folk ultimately missed, which was disappointing. You know what I mean? So like situations like that, to me, I'm like, yeah, I think they need to stop playing conservative football a little bit when it comes to the offensive game plan and trust him a little bit more, because he hasn't done anything to show me that he's not capable of doing that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Also, too, the Cowboys gave it overtime, because as soon as we punted back, I knew we were losing that football game. This last Sunday you're right. Last Sunday was like the first time we really, and this is the thing that kind of irked me the last 2 years, because the final game of the season last year against the Jets, I was kind of like, where was this Patriots team the entire season? You know, they let them they looked like they were having fun out there, where they kind of like just threw the playbook away. Hell, Cam caught a touchdown pass. And then this year too, the Jets game, Mac finally showed what he's capable of. This Sunday, however, I'm not saying he's going to be on title leash. If you look up the stats, the Chargers are one of the worst rushing teams in the league. We saw it against the Baltimore Ravens. Mm-hmm. I am expecting a big Damian Harris day on Sunday, to be honest with you. Because even last year, remember the Chargers game, obviously, am I going to come out here and say we're going to win 45-0 again and we're going to have a special teams return by Devin McCourty? No, also considering McCourty is dealing with a bit of an abdomen problem right now. Mm-hmm. What I am expecting, though, is for the Patriots to try to run the balls down the throat of the Chargers defense, which seems to have problems stopping the run. I believe their run defense, I think, maybe bottom 3 in the league. I'm pretty sure it's in.
Oh, it is. It's bad. No, it's actually
it's really bad. Considering their head coach is, Brandon Staley, defensive coordinator, who made the Rams defense look great last year. But and that's the other thing too, where it kind of is a double-edged sword, because Brandon Staley's defense, if you remember last year, because we had that fun little LA road trip where it was Sunday against the Chargers, Thursday against the Rams. Sunday, we killed the Chargers. Thursday, the Rams killed us. So I honestly don't know what to expect Sunday. I do think it will be a closer game. But as for Mac, look, I'm looking at it for these games coming up, like you said. We have Carolina and Atlanta on the road, which I feel like more than likely we should win. I think, though, we're going to have to steal one. No matter what happens this Sunday, I think we're going to have to steal one, if not both, against both Cleveland and Tennessee.
Yeah, because those are both coming up, you know, because it's like, you know, I agree with you on the Chargers. I think that's going to be a close game. I do not think it's going to be a blowout. especially like, they've been playing tough against good teams. Obviously, they played the Bucs tough. They played the Cowboys tough, two of the best teams in the NFC, and then obviously the Dolphins, which they aren't good, and that was disappointing. But like they're playing tough when it comes and competitive against good teams, and that's why I feel like, besides the Saints, but but I feel like they have a chance, and if they can beat the Chargers this weekend, that would be huge for one. But then, I agree with you. I think Carolina should be a win, realistically. You never know, obviously, but that is a very winnable game for this team. And then I think you're right. I think they have to beat either the Titans or the Browns. Obviously, preferably both, but those are two very, very good teams. And I don't know how confident I would be in winning either of those games, but I think if they can win one of those games, then they genuinely have a chance. And that's going to be the tough thing, because they're playing some tough teams the next few weeks.
Exactly. And then after that, you look at it, obviously, I'm already looking ahead to that Monday nighter against Buffalo. I want us right before our bye, because that's the thing, too. We have a really late bye week this year. And then there's that Colts game, week 15, it's week 13, then we're playing the Bills. Week 15 against the Colts, the game time is still to be determined, so it could be on the Saturday night or it could get flexed into Sunday. Mm-hmm. That's a game right there that I look at as that could be a loser leaves town kind of game, where if you the winner of that game, they still have that playoff momentum. Like, remember last year when we played Miami and that was a game we got eliminated?
Yeah, well, that was so disappointing.
On my birthday. But that's the actual true thing. That game was on my birthday, so the Patriots gave me a wonderful gift last year. That's right, folks. I'm a Christmas baby.
Happy birthday! Sorry,
but no. So for within that context, what I'm trying to say is that Colts game I look at that as, what. And that's the other thing too. I'll say I think we have to split against the Bills this year, even though the Bills are a much better team than what we've seen in years past. I think this year we have to take at least, if we can grab one, more preferably. I know I'd love to see a home win. If we can go into Buffalo in Orchard Park on a Monday night in prime time and beat them, the Patriots fan in me will just be smiling ear to ear, because I know how much I would piss off Bills Mafia. Because
which would be hilarious, because making that fan base mad would be really funny.
I also say this too, and I feel like some people are going to disagree with me. I still feel like the Patriots, in a way, are big brother to the Buffalo Bills, just because, look, we still hold the championships, and they always look. The Bills fans always have that game circled, because they always look at us throughout the last 20 years of Tom Brady just completely kicking their asses. So we'll see what happens this year, Mac and Josh, but I don't want to worry too much about that now. I have the Belichick mindset where I'm like, you know what? Look, this week's about the Chargers. The Chargers do have some pieces on there that can be. The battle I'm most looking forward to is seeing how, because our offensive line play has been a little shaky this year. I want to see how we look against Joey Bosa, and then on the other side of the ball, I want to see how we handle guys like Matt Filer, Corey Linsley, who I think is questionable for this week, or he's out.
Yeah, he's questionable right now. I saw that earlier today, actually.
And then Rashawn Slater, who's looked really good this year so far, because that's the thing. If we can get to Herbert early and get to him quick, there's a good chance to win this game. Also, the other matchup I'm looking forward to is J.C. Jackson on Mike Williams. That's going to be a matchup to watch this weekend.
Yeah.
That tiptoe interception Sunday,
I was like, J.C. Jackson literally owns the Jets. Literally owns the Jets, because that in both games against the Jets this year, he had a big game.
Exactly. And even too, on our defensive side of the ball, we have the host of Elite Eats, great YouTube spot with Kyle Van Noy, who's been playing great. Dietrich Wise Jr.'s really stepped up his game. Josh Uche's looking really good. Last year, I feel like there was a lot of pressure on Jawan Bentley, just because obviously he was the Mike linebacker, so he more or less had the green dot. This year, he doesn't have those responsibilities, so he can kind of do his thing. But the one guy who I absolutely love and who Donovan Mitchell loves is Matthew Judon. I don't know how.
I love Matt Judon. Oh my gosh, yeah. I was getting so pumped about Matthew Judon the last couple weeks, because I was like, I love this guy.
Yeah, this team is just and also too, I spoke to I believe you know me, worked with him before, but Ray Ralph was on my podcast a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I know him.
He made a really good point to me when I started to agree with him. This is literally the day after the Saints game. If whatever happens this year happens, I'm not focused on you know what, hey. If we win Sunday and I tweet out something obnoxious, people saying we'll see you back here in a few months, because obviously we're playing at the site of the Super Bowl. That's just me being arrogant in the moment. Do I actually think that's going to happen? No. I'm looking for this team, like how I said, I said with Deshaun Watson, where the Miami Dolphins look at it as a long-term investment. This core is locked up for a long time. Even to Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Matthew Judon, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, all the guys we signed, they're not going. I think Aguilar's 2 years, so we have at least next year too, to where if this year doesn't go to our liking, We can go add in
You
some
can
more
build
pieces.
off of it at least.
Yeah, because also to the salary cap, I fully expect it to go up next year. There's a couple players I'm already circling for the draft who I would love to see in a New England Patriots uniform. For those of you wondering, go Google the name Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State. I'm smitten by the kid. He's a Patriot. He literally plays like a Patriot. Yeah. Or the only other weapon I'll say too is Hunter Renfrow. If he were to ever come available, that is a New England Patriot wide receiver. I am sorry. That is what a New England Patriot. That's what I'm conditioned to believe a New England Patriot wide receiver looks like. But no. So my moral of my story is look, whatever happens this year happens. If we go 7-10, we go 7-10. If we sneak in and go 10-7 or even 11-6, which I feel like 11, I think 10-7 or 9-8 is the more realistic record because
11-6 is a huge stretch right now.
We basically have to steal a bunch of games. Yeah. But moral of the story. So yeah, basically that's my whole moral of the story is look, as long as we can just show signs of improvement and also too we can more or less let Mac off the leash and cook, I think we'll be fine. And the only other thing I'll say about this Sunday is take the Patriots to cover 5.5 points.
I like that though. I like that. But yeah, one of the things I will say, since we had touched on the defense before, the defense has been a bit inconsistent this year so far. And there has been a lot of instances where I am concerned about the defense. And that is something that needs to change, especially when you're playing teams that have really strong offenses and a lot of weapons around their quarterback, because I very much get concerned a lot of times with this defense because it has not been consistent enough at all for me to feel confident.
No, I'm the same way. This defense, because that's why when you were saying all the games where we played up to levels of our competition, that's why I said Houston Texans under my breath, because that was honestly a very ugly football game. The first time I think I've seen an ugly win against a bad team since I don't know if you remember this game, 2013, we played the Cleveland Browns and we won on a field goal by Gostkowski.
I remember that.
Last second.
Yeah. And that was back when Cleveland was really bad. So
I think Cleveland was picking that was the year they went and got Clowney. That was Houston got Clowney that year. They picked that was a Johnny Manziel draft. I think they had like 2 picks in the first round. They got Justin Gilbert, I want to say.
Yeah.
But moral of the story with that game was a game the Patriots had no business winning. Like the game where we made Davis Mills look like Mac Jones. I'm saying that because
that Texans game. Yeah, I mean they're barely beating the Texans is inexcusable. That was just that. I was like, there is no reason that the Texans should even be in this game right now.
If we had gone to 1-4 after that, that's where you really pull the plug on the season and say, look, we're going to look ahead to next year. Because like for example, we were talking earlier, how Miami should have beaten Jacksonville in London 2 weeks ago, but they didn't. And that was a very exciting game too to wake up for. So London, keep those 9:30 games coming. Just please, better teams in 22.
Yeah.
But my whole thing is, look, like I said before, we have to steal some games here now. So I'm just going to do some quick math. So we have 4 games. We have 5 games. We're 3-4 right now. If we can get to, I think my best case scenario, so we have 5 out of those 5 games. If we can get to 6 wins and be, say, so let's see, 5, 6. So that would bring our record to 6-6 by the end of November.
If they win 3 of those, then yeah.
Yeah. If we win 3 of our next 5 and are sitting at 500 going into the basically what is known as the last half of the season, kind of that's when the playoff push truly, because that's the Belichickism in me. The playoff, because basically the season doesn't start really until after Thanksgiving. So if by Thanksgiving we're at 6-6, well, American Thanksgiving, I should say, even though I'm wearing my Salute Service hoodie right now. If we're at 6-6 come American Thanksgiving, I think we're in a good spot. Even if we're at 5-7 by then, it's just that if we're at 5-7, that Bills game on Monday Night Football becomes basically, I think, a must win. Yeah. And also the other thing too is, I was with a Bills podcaster last week, and he told me something on Thanksgiving night. And my dad's going to kill me for saying this because he's a Saints fan. That Bills Saints game, that all Patriots fans should be rooting for the Bills to win because Josh Allen. That's the other reason why too I'm going for the Bills this Sunday. Josh Allen does not lose back-to-back. So that's just a little Cole's note to add.
Yeah, so that's why we want, which makes sense because you want them to win that game because if they lose, then you know that they're probably going to beat the Patriots because that's just, you know what I mean? And I mean, that's the other thing about Josh Allen, though, that just kind of goes to show you how consistent of a quarterback he really is. Like if he loses, he always bounces back the next week. And that's why, we need the best case scenario that will help us beat the Bills. Exactly. And if that means I can't root for them though, but I understand what you're saying though. You have to, because if they lose, that just increases the likelihood of them winning the next week, I feel like.
Think of it as Angel Gabby and Devil Gabby on your shoulder. Devil Gabby is telling you to go jump through a table. Angel Gabby's telling you who dat. Just think of it that way. How about that?
Well, yeah, that's a good like analogy. You know what I mean? But yeah, you know, I think the other thing that I will say is like obviously the defense needs to be more consistent for one. I mean, I hate bringing up that Saints game, but that was just awful. That game in general was just literally terrible. But again, like on the opposite side of that, though, I will say in general, this team is really starting to put the pieces together more than they did at the beginning of the season. Because at the beginning of the season, it was, you know, they were making a lot of stupid mistakes, not catching a lot of passes, just doing dumb things that are easily preventable and fixable. And I said after week 1, when they lost to the Dolphins, I was like, yeah, although that loss was incredibly disappointing because of how close they came to winning the game, I said a lot of the stuff that took place in this game was stupid mistakes that can be fixed. And I feel like they're starting to eliminate a lot of those stupid mistakes now. And I feel like I'm really starting to notice a difference from week 1 to now in terms of they're cleaning up a lot of that stuff that needed to be cleaned up, and they're not making a lot of those mistakes anymore. So that's a positive that I can take out of it.
Exactly. Also, too, guys like Christian Barmore have truly stepped up. That's another draft pick, which was a steal in the draft.
Oh, yeah, absolute steal. They got him late.
Second round, 37th overall. As soon as
he was not supposed to drop that far.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to say something quickly about the draft. I don't know what it is, but COVID literally has made me like a draft junkie now because literally that's all. Like last year, if you remember it, that's all like we were all looking forward to that because it was literally the only live sports that was on. So this year I did the same thing where I watched Thursday night, I watched Friday night, I watched Saturday night. Now I'm going to do that every year. Saturday, though, was a little difficult. I don't know how much Saturday I'll truly watch, but I'll always keep tabs on it. But with Friday night, as soon as I remember, I went out and actually got Firehouse subs for dinner that night. And I remember I came home with it. I know, random fact. And then I saw the Patriots traded with Cincinnati, and I'm like, okay, are we going for Barmore? I'm like, Barmore's still on the board. Barmore was a pipe dream pick, and it came true. It's like the old Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry thing. Because actually, I remember the last – this just flashed in my head. I remember the last time you and I talked was like literally Dak Prescott signed with the Cowboys like 5 minutes before we started recording. That's all we talked about.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that because that was like the news broke like right before we were going to go on air.
Yeah, which is always great when that happens. It's always great when that happens. No matter what time of year you're recording your podcast, it's always good to have news either break during or before you go on.
Yeah, because then you have something you can talk about.
Exactly, because that was my next segue was going into it. I remember a week later when we signed Jonnu Smith, I was like, all right, cool. I wanted either or. Next day at work, I get a notification that it was Adam Schefter. I think it was either Schefter or Rossini who said, yeah, we also signed Hunter Henry. And I'm like, all right, cool. Because now we know something that, and that's the other reason I'm going to allude to before when we said the salary cap's going up. Because a man that we love who's in his 80s now named Robert Kraft and Jerry Jones are ahead of I don't know if you know this or not, but they're the two who do the broadcasting rights for the NFL from the owner side of it.
Oh, yeah.
They help like negotiate the contract. Negotiate / who gets what. And through that, they must have known something was up. That's why they were probably handing all that money because they know, look, and also the other thing too with these contracts are backloaded. So as the cap goes up, the contracts are going to balance themselves out. So I'm here to say the future's looking bright for the Patriots. And if it's not this year, I mean, next year's Super Bowl's in Phoenix. And I'm pretty sure the last 2 times the Super Bowl, even though one of them's heartbreaking, the last 2 Glendale Phoenix Super Bowls, the New England Patriots were there. Just throwing that out in the air. So you can bookmark this in a year and a half from now.
Right? Yeah, like save this exact statement, and then we can look back on this like next year if they are in the Super Bowl.
Called it.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying though. It's like, I mean, this season is very much like not as much like last season because last season I feel like was more of like, okay, this is a rebuilding year because like to really see like we literally just lost our quarterback of 20 years. And so we need to see how this goes more so. And they didn't really have a lot of, weapons on offense to surround Cam with. So last year was very much more of like an experimental year, I feel like, whereas this year was sort of a little bit of the same. Like, yeah, we're kind of rebuilding. We're trying to figure out like what works here, but a little less so because like they're bringing back players that, have been in the system and were more established. So I look at this year as even more so with more expectations than last year. But like this team to me this year, if they make the playoffs, that is an accomplishment for this year, just based on where they're supposed to be at. I just feel like even if they get knocked the first round of the playoffs, I still feel like looking back on this season, if they can say they snuck into a playoff spot at all, then I feel like that's an accomplishment this year, especially with, having a rookie quarterback and having all these changes to the roster and just having people learn a new system. I just feel like there's a lot that went on this year where you can really say if they can pull it out and get a playoff spot, you can say, yeah, this season was more pretty successful overall, I'd say. And B, you can say I'm really excited for the future with these players that we signed, that we brought on during this really successful offseason we had. And with like the excitement of our quarterback now, we can just be really excited about the future. So I feel like just making the playoffs would leave a good taste in people's mouths for this year.
Not 100%. Even if they were to get eliminated, say like week 17 or week 18, because the math doesn't go in their favor, I still look at it as a successful season. Because like I always said this year, look, we can make it as a wild card team, or if we're literally on the outside looking in, it's still fine. Obviously, it's not where you want to be, where you're in that football purgatory, where you're not good enough to be a Super Bowl contender, but you're not bad enough to be one of the worst teams in the league. Like it's like because like
that's the worst place to be. Because at least if you're one of the worst teams in the league, you can be excited about the good draft picks. But if you're like in that mediocre spot of like we're not good enough to be a playoff team, but we're also not bad enough to tank for like that first pick, like you're just in a terrible spot at that point.
Exactly. Like remember, what was I gonna say? You're right though, because like last year too, we were mediocre. But like part of me, I don't think I just want to admit it. Like I was like I've said this several times on my show. I was afraid to kind of like admit how truly bad we were. I didn't want to think it. I thought, you know what? Hey, the grass is always going to be green. I looked at it as Pandora's box, and my mind kept it going. Hey, open the good box. Don't open the bad box, or don't like go looking for the bad results. Even though I knew that by a certain point, it was just like, look, the dream's over. We weren't that good. But and also the other thing too is I'll say, no matter what happens this Sunday, I always remember this. We've already doubled our win total from November of not from November, but of October of 2020. If you remember that, we won 0 games in that month.
No, that is actually true, and that's where it goes to show that this team has made progress from last year, and that's all we can really ask for right now. Because last year they literally were a bubble playoff team for a while too. Like they were kind of right there in the mix. And once again, you look back to like a couple of games where there was like one play that kind of determined it. They were literally like 2 or 3 plays away from being a playoff team last year, which is crazy with all the challenges they went through last year. But I mean, I don't think if this team right now, as is, had Cam as the quarterback this year, I still think that they would be kind of back where they were last year. Because I think Mac is just a better quarterback for this system, and he can make it work better with these players than Cam could.
I think he'd already be pulled. I think if I'm just going to throw this out here, but I think if what's the magical word I'm looking for here? I think that if it were by now, there's a very good chance that our record, instead of being 3-4, that we're staring 2-5 right in the face with Cam. Cam, you know what? I thank him for his service when he was here, but you know what? Belichick knows what's best, and I know you're a Cam fan. I know you like them. I know you have the jersey and all that. But as soon as they name Mac the starter, I'm like, okay, Belichick doesn't start rookies. He knows what he's doing, and we'll ultimately see what happens. But you're right. Look, we're 3-4 right now. We got to accept it. We've accepted it for what it is. Also, the team's actually, I believe, traveling tomorrow because they have a long cross-country flight to go to. We finally have a pretty solid announced team calling the game on Sunday too. I don't know if you looked into that. We have Ian Eagle, Charles Davis calling the game, which I'm a fan of those two. Charles Davis does Madden. And also too, because Nance and Romo, I know you were at the game, but Romo was like a little homerish towards the Cowboys, and then
really, yeah, of course.
I can't stand the guys. The guys who did last week also did the Texans game, and those guys were kind of annoying, in my opinion. So we get to listen to good guys call the game. It's a 4:00 kick, which, if I'm being honest with you, 1:00 is my preferred kickoff time, just because it's like, hey, look, you play your game, your game's done, you have the rest of the day to watch all the other games. That's what I did last Sunday, except I didn't finish all of the Colts-Niner games because it was kind of sloppy for the first little bit of it. But back to this weekend for the Patriots. It's going to be interesting to see Mac versus Justin. Also, too, it's going to be interesting to see what a full SoFi Stadium looks like, because obviously when the Patriots played there last year, it was good. But I'm dropping hints right now, like I said before. If you're like, what was the word I was looking for? With this year, I'm losing my thoughts. But I'm going to center back and say this. With Mac, you said that like on a tight leash. This year is like the training wheels year for Mac. It's next year where come week 1, I think every Patriots fan out there, no matter what happens this year, is going to expect to see him ride the bike by himself.
Yeah, I mean, I still think he can do more than they're letting him do, though. And I think that has been a reason why they've, kind of lost a couple of the games that they did lose is like, obviously not the whole reason, but I do think that is part of it. And I mean, I already brought up that Bucks example as one of them. I think that even though it's the training wheels year, which obviously makes sense because he's a rookie and he's still really like getting a grasp on how this all really works at the professional level, I still think that they can loosen the leash a little bit because like if they want a chance at making a run for a playoff spot, they're going to have to start doing that, and so I think that and I do think we did see glimpses of that in the Jets game. So I do think maybe now they are going to start to do that a little bit more and just kind of pull those layers off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's funny when you mentioned Cam, like me liking Cam. I mean, I like Cam as a person. I think he was a good role model for the team, and I think he was a good leader and he had a good personality. And I think, I like Cam as a player, but not for the Patriots. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think the Patriots were the system for him. And I think that it just wasn't going to work there for him. But I mean, overall, as like a person, I think he's a good, person and he's a good player. And I think like I just think he just kind of lost stamina and just didn't really have it anymore. And I don't think that the Patriots were the best team for him to be on.
Oh, 100%. And also, we've seen this time and time again where guys come in here and the Patriot way just isn't their way. But then obviously there's the ones like Matthew Slater, Dante Hightower, Devin McCourty. Obviously, saying guys who've been here for a very long time. Even Jamie Collins is back now. Guys who just fit the mold. Cam, it was like what I said before. Thank you for your service. But look, we know that at the time now, was he the best option to go for? No. Do I think that, look, maybe there's a game here or there that we did better in? But maybe there's not. But you know what? It was one of those mysteries that can't tell. And like I said, too, Belichick's going to know what's best for the team and the organization. He saw that was Mac. Mac fell to us at 15. I'll admit I wanted Fields on draft night. Kind of glad that we have Mac now because Mac's looking great.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, too. I've seen this on Twitter a lot. There's a lot of mannerisms that are fairly similar to a guy that wore 12.
Well, no,
I'm not saying he's going to be Tom.
No, but that's what I mean, though. Like, in terms of his kind of playing style and the way he approaches the game is very similar to Brady.
Exactly.
And the thing I like about Mac is his in-game decision making. He's very smart on the football field and he's very aware of what's going on and he makes good decisions a lot of times on the field in terms of where to put the football. And I feel like that's something that Cam lacked more of, but Mac really is in tune with everything that's going on the field and with that offense. And he makes good decisions while he's on the field. And that's something I really like about him.
And also to his pocket awareness is a lot better than Cam because Cam last year, if the blitz was coming, he would just like kind of turtle and just go down and take the hit.
He wouldn't know what to do. Yeah.
The only time I've seen Mac do that, where obviously he's been sacked, but then there was obviously only the Randy Gregory one against Dallas where he truly got blown up.
Yeah.
But with Mac, he, like you said, his playmaking ability is a lot better. His pocket awareness is great. He's able to get out of trouble where he's not just going to throw the football away or kind of turtle and take a sack. He's going to try to make something out of nothing. And you know what? A lot of the times, if you can make something happen, look, it's only going to benefit your cause further. And it's only going to make the case of why he's here. And the fact that now we know, look, going forward, hey, this guy is our franchise quarterback. There's no more of the questions of, next year now we don't have to answer any questions of what's going to happen here, what's going to happen there. The only real question that's going to happen is who's going to back him up, which, you know what, if you're asking me, that's not a bad problem to have.
I mean, that was my question even before this, like before the season started, when they announced that Mac was going to be the starter, I was like, well, there's yet again, still we're relying on like Brian Hoyer as a backup. Like, you know what I mean? Which isn't great because like what if Mac gets injured? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it is a good problem to have, but it's also just frustrating to think that it literally is Brian Hoyer or bust as the backup right now if like Mac were to get injured. You know what I mean?
Knock on wood for that. My whole thing, like I understand that. I also weirdly think too that they could easily call Cam to come back if they do that, but I don't even want to think about that. I don't even want that like in one ear.
Yeah.
That's in one ear, out the other ear.
I don't really want to entertain that idea right now.
It happens. It's a podcast. We just podcaster. That's what happens here. You just say things that they just come out. That's why, like, I had the moment a few minutes ago when I spaz and my mind goes to a million places. Do I do that in my everyday life? Yes, but I do that on podcasts, of course. My whole thing with that is, look, Hoyer's here to literally be a coach. He's going to be a coach in this league one day. Yeah. Also too, they cut him, but they cut him just so they could like kind of play cap gymnastics. And He has his family's all set up in the Boston area. He has a house here. You knew he wasn't going anywhere. My only question for next year really is what happens to Jarrett Stidham? Is Stidham still a member of the Patriots, or is he somewhere else next year? That's my only thing.
Yeah, I know. I think it depends on a lot of different things, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not here next year at all.
Exactly. That's one of the guys too that we thought that, like, hey, he can be something, but then obviously we saw he's one of those quarterbacks that's not really going to pan out. He is an SEC guy, so 2/3 of our quarterback room. Well, actually, I find it funny that 2/3 of our quarterback room is one of the biggest rivalries in college football in the Iron Bowl. Obviously, Mac, Alabama, Jared's an Auburn guy.
Yeah,
Roll Tide, War Eagle.
It is funny.
It's funny to think too, and also we may see some chirping from them coming up that week of Thanksgiving because obviously that's when those two teams clash.
Yeah.
But I'm not too worried about the backup situation. Like even too on Sunday, Brian Hoyer looked fine. I'll say this too: it was great to see JJ Taylor get a touchdown.
I love him. I love JJ Taylor.
Ramondre Stevenson reminds me of LeGarrette Blount a lot, where he's not going to be a reliable back to where I'm saying, you know what, RB1 for fantasy. That's Damian Harris. Ramondre Stevenson's that guy who's going to get you those garbage yards. He's going to be that running back that are going to piss off Damian Harris fantasy owners. Simply put, because he's going to come in and get those. Like, say, for example, if there's a goal line touchdown at the 1, they can put in Harris, but at the same time, too, if you want to play where you're just going to run it in and just hope someone gets trucked, you put Ramondre Stevenson in. He's a hoss for better terms. He's just a guy, like, he'll deliver blunt force trauma, but obviously I keep those 3 words reserved for LeGarrette Blount, who's obviously retired now, because I would tweet out blunt force trauma. Obviously didn't spell it the same way as LeGarrette's last name. Because I would tweet that out so much during the Super Bowl runs. I remember when he got cut by the Steelers, I would just do the Bill Belichick, like walking out the tunnel or like him at the combine meme, and it happened. So we'll see where we go from there. But like I said, look, this team's got nowhere to go but up. There's even other guys from this year who have been drafted who haven't shown their full potential, like Ronnie Perkins, Cameron McGrone, who's been on IR, Trey Nixon too, another wide receiver. I'll say this, Trey Nixon. That was an Ernie Adams draft pick, and when Ernie Adams takes someone, you do not take that with a grain of salt. You take that as he knows what he's doing.
And this is obviously somebody that he wants here,
100%. Like this rookie class is a lot to show, and also too, we still have Devin Asiasi, we still have Dalton Keene. Now, obviously, I don't think those two are going to work out here, just because, look, the 2020 draft class had good picks, because that's the other player too. I'll say Kyle Duggar. Kyle Duggar's looking like a great safety right now. My only thing for next year, my 2 main priorities for next offseason is locking up J.C. Jackson, and then my current favorite Patriot, who wears number 54, Dante Hightower.
Yeah, I know. I love Dante Hightower as well. I have a soft spot for him. For sure. I mean, I think you're right. I think there's a really high ceiling for the future with this team, and we still haven't even really seen their full potential, even this year. I feel like because I feel like they're making slow strides every week, which is really good. They're heading in the right direction, and so that's why it'll be interesting to see how they just progress the rest of this season, because there's still plenty of football left to be played.
Exactly. And I'm not saying this is the same situation, but remember how Josh Allen's first 2 years, there was like those growing pains there where you could clearly tell you saw signs, but he didn't have anyone to throw to. Well, he didn't have anyone to throw to until Diggs got there, but there was obviously some moments where he would just airmail it and completely go for broke. Yeah. I see similar signs in Mac. Now, am I saying Mac's going to turn to Josh Allen? No. All quarterbacks are different. Like, I always hate that where it's like, oh, he's the next this. He's the next that. It's like, Mahomes is the next Brady. Kyler's the next this. I hate those arguments. I like to look at it as, look, each quarterback in this league is different for a reason. Yeah. Everyone brings something different to the table, including the one guy who I like to watch, who, after we get off here, I'm going to go watch tonight. That's my email's Kyler Murray. He's my favorite non-Patriot quarterback right now.
The Cardinals are such a fun team this year.
Such a fun team, and I have a bit of a soft spot for them today. But which we can talk about later if we want to. But my whole thing with Mac is, look, and also I've always been on this weird theory with Alabama quarterbacks. They've always gotten bad when they've come to the league, but I just think they weren't the right system.
Well, yeah, because he comes from a very similar system, like in Alabama, you know what I mean? And I think based on how the Patriots run things, I think he kind of found like the perfect match for him to succeed in. I think if he was drafted somewhere else, he would not be putting up these kinds of numbers and he would not be playing this well. I just think he ended up in the system that's kind of perfect for him to be in.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I forgot what I was going to say before, but yeah, that's my whole thing with Mac is just, look, he's in the Patriots. Oh, that's right, the Alabama quarterback thing. A lot of them don't get to the right system. Saban and Belichick are best friends for people that don't know. They worked together in Cleveland back in the late 80s, early 90s. So Am I worried about Mac? No. Is there a chance I have a Mac jersey after Christmas? Probably.
I'd love a Mac jersey for
Yeah.
Christmas.
And the other thing,
Mom and Dad, are you listening?
Mom, Dad,
really, right?
yeah. What's it called? And would I wear that next year? Because I'm actually I've said this on my show before. We'll say on your show. Is there a chance I'm down in Boston next year? Probably. There, I was going to go this year, but obviously things were a little complicated. Obviously, we're still dealing with the pandemic. Hopefully next year everything's better, a lot better, even to where we are now. But you know what? Next year, there's a very good chance you see me at Gillette Stadium, and that's something that I can check off my bucket list.
Yeah, Gillette Stadium's awesome. Going to games there is so cool, and the environment, like the atmosphere, is just awesome there. I love going to games. That Cowboys Patriots game was so fun to be at.
Exactly. Because also too, I look at the ticket prices, and I'm like, oh, they're a little cheap. They're a little steep, but I would love to go in September for the weather. And I know you love this team, and I have painful memories of this team. But if I could do a thing in October where I could do it, like say, go to a Bruins game on a Saturday night, then go to the Patriots game on a Sunday, I would do that. Like I said, the Bruins have caused me emotional pain. For those of you who don't know out there, I am a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. So if I could go to a Boston Bruins,
just the experience, because then you could go to TD Garden and go to Gillette. You know what I mean?
Park my cat at the Garden.
Yeah, so that'd be like a cool experience for you because you could just see, like, be able to say you were at both places.
Exactly, because I've been to Montreal, Buffalo, Vegas. I've been to 5 NHL arenas in my life, and that would make it a 6.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you might as well just add it to your list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my list is Toronto, Buffalo, Montreal, Philadelphia, and Las Vegas.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, those are good. Those are good ones. That's like quite the list. But yeah, you might as well just add Boston to it and then go to the Patriots game the next day.
Why not? My only thing I'd have to figure out is how to get out from Boston to Foxborough, because I know it's not exactly far, but I know I have like a whole thing planned where I'd want to spend like a day at Gillette, go to the Hall of Fame, because I know there's like a million different shops to check out around there. But that's a story for another day. But like, we'll see what happens next year, what the schedule looks like. Hopefully the dates line up. Looks like, for as much as I would love to go to, say, a primetime game, I'd rather attend like a 1 o'clock or a 4:25 kick, just so you kind of still have your night.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough going to those games that start at like 8:30. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so hard to go to those games.
Exactly.
Especially on a Sunday night. You know what I mean?
For me, it'd be a little different because it'd be vacation, but for people like
you that
are local,
for somebody like me, where I'm not taking time off, it's just tough. Like, that's why the 1 o'clocks are the best for that situation, because then I'm back at home at a reasonable time for work the next day.
100%. The only thing I'm going to say about Sunday is the reason why I said that I think they cover 5.5 points. 1, because I think it's a really good cover. 2, I don't like giving out score predictions, because the last time I did that was the Saints game, and obviously that's when we played our worst. So I just go off that now. I still think they either cover, or it's going to be like a worst case scenario. I can't see it being a blowout on either side. I can see it worst case being maybe a 10-point margin of victory, where it's really close, but then someone pulls away at the end. That's the only thing I can say. But one other point I'll make about the season so far, am I happy at 3-4? Yeah. Do I know that I hate playing the what if game, but you have to do it. Yeah. If we beat one of Tampa or Dallas, our season looks a lot better. But hey, it just means that hopefully we can beat Cleveland or Tennessee.
I'm saying even more if we beat Miami.
That game is the last Sunday of the regular season, and I thought that was going to be the game that'd be like, winner go to the playoffs, loser goes home.
Yeah,
that game scares the crap out of me right now, because that game could easily be Miami playing spoiler for us. Because
because they hate the Patriots.
Well, we also have bad luck down there too for some reason. Like,
I know Brady could never win down there.
There was the miracle in Miami. So there's a sick part of me, like how how I said before that, like, look, hey, cheering for the Bills, you feel dirty doing it. There's just a part down in me right now that says, look, we're going to be staring the playoffs in the eyes, and Miami's going to ruin it for us, because they're out and they love nothing better, and especially their fan base too, than to knock us out of the playoffs.
Oh, the fan base would love that. They'd be like, yes, like this is our Super Bowl, knocking the Patriots out.
3 years in a row. 2019, obviously they cost us the bye. 2020 was when the loss to them was what knocked us out of the playoffs.
Oh, I know. They love it.
And then this year would be them doing that to us. It's just, that's like the football gods, but hopefully the football gods down in South Beach this year are kind to us.
Yeah, maybe they'll be nice this year. Maybe they'll be in a good mood, and they'll decide that they want to help us.
It's all you can hope for at the end of the day. Am I right? It's all you can hope for at the end of the day.
No, it's true. It's so true. But yeah, no, I'm really excited. I think, they're like we talked about a lot. There's a lot to be hopeful about and optimistic about. I think I like that they're taking strides every week. So it'll be fun to see how they stack up against some of these good teams that they have on their schedule going forward. And just see how that goes. But, I really enjoy you joining me on the show. I think this was fantastic. Just tell everybody where they can find you on, social media.
It's finally great
at your house.
It's finally great. You know what? No, if you want to come find me at my house, it's fine. I'll just might call the cops on you. But as for where you can find me on social media, I have multiple different platforms. Like Gabby said before, I do have my own podcast, YWC Football Talk, available wherever you can find podcasts. Also, I do videos of it too that I record. No matter what way I record, or if it's just audio, they are on my YouTube as well. That's at Main Mark Barth on YouTube, which is a wrestling/sports football podcast channel. Mr. Griff B, Mr. Griffin B, both. I have two different handles. One's Twitter, one's Instagram. There's Griff Sports Talk as well, which is my TikTok. I know not a lot of people use it. I use it as a way to basically say weekly betting picks. I'm not doing so good so far, but then I also post my betting on Instagram. But yeah, just follow me wherever, as you'll see a lot of tweets about NFL, Patriots in general. And the one soft spot I want to say about the Cardinals really quickly is I feel really bad for J.J. Watt because he finally got into a good situation for a chance to win.
It's heartbreaking.
And also, too, I'll say this out there, for anyone who out there saying he is not a Hall of Famer, that he's washed up, clearly you're at the age of 12, because if he were to retire, I still think he gets in. Remember, folks, he's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and he is also winless at Gillette Stadium. Fun little fact.
Yeah, no, I know. I like him a lot. He's such a likable player, so it's really unfortunate, but I'm still rooting for the Cardinals. Like, I hope they win their division. I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah.
I'm a quasi Cardinal fan. Like, I'm a fan, but I'm not a fan. Like, it's always a team I had a soft spot for. Like, I like what Cliff Kingsbury's doing down there, and finally he got it figured out. He was on him and Zach Taylor were on my hottest of hot seats going into the year. Now that has switched to Vic Fangio and Brian Flores. Also, too, one I'll say is Kyle Shanahan. We could talk about other football another day, but for the most part, like I said, I just wanted to see him get better. And as for the winless thing, it's because the Houston Texans have never won a game at Gillette Stadium. Fun fact. And the only other thing I'll have to say is I really enjoyed coming on Boston Balling today, getting to talk some New England Patriots, because you know what? This is the perfect point, and I'm going to say this too, is like Bon Jovi says, we're halfway there, living on a prayer.
Exactly. Like, this is a good time to have a good discussion about football, But
close personal friend of Robert Kraft, I should add, Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, that's why he loves the Patriots so much. But yeah, yes. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Thank you again for joining me on the show. This was awesome. Everybody, thanks for always tuning into Boston Balling. I really appreciate it. Go Patriots. And happy almost Friday, everybody.
Hashtag forever and you guys.